Hello and welcome to the Tron Church podcast. I'm Fraser Nicholson and I'm here today with Katie Piggott, and we're here to talk about hospitality today and thinking about what hospitality is and how we might go about it and why we should be doing it. So we're going to start by thinking about what it is. And I recently was doing a session with the apprentices about this, so we don't proclaim to be particular experts, but we have, we've both been blessed by hospitality here at church. We've both done it before, and I recently read a few books about it, which doesn't make me an expert. But one of the things that I found really helpful actually in the reading that I did do about it was actually just learning what the word hospitality in the Bible, like what it is. And it's this Greek word philoxenia, which means love of strangers or love of outsiders, people who are not part of your immediate kind of circle. And I just thought that was really helpful to see that this is the root of what hospitality is. We might think about, I don't know what comes to your mind when you think hospitality, but we often think about having people around for dinner or like doing Sunday lunch. That is what hospitality is. But actually, that's an application of what being hospitable is. But the root of it is love for other people. Katie, why do you think that's such a helpful thing to remember when we're doing it?
Yeah, because I think it's always tempting just to hang out with people who you're gonna, for sure you're gonna have fun with. So I won't name names, but you know who you are. But actually, I think to be like mirroring and to be in the likeness of Christ, you want to be reaching out like he's reached out to us, and to be loving the outsiders and bringing people in, loving people that aren't that lovable like ourselves, and showing the love of Christ to people that we don't know and not just our friends. So
and it's helpful as it, like, as we're recording this recently, Edward's been preaching in John's Gospel in the upper room or farewell discourse, whatever you want to call it, but it comes up again and again that we are to love one another, and the standard for which we're to do that is the way that Christ has loved us. And it's just been really helpful, all these little reminders about how we need to be doing that. And
on Sunday night he was talking about just the need to be around one another and to help one another, and that we won't survive long on our own, and actually there's just so many blessings that come from showing hospitality and having that principle of loving outsiders, loving other people.
No, it's been really helpful. I think just thinking about why we actually do it, and one of the things again that came up, I guess, when I was doing a bit of reading about it, is actually remembering that it's something we're commanded to do. And I think we can often, or I could often, slip into just thinking it's an optional extra, or it's for a certain time in life, or a certain type of person that's just gifted. But
I think that's because often when people think about hospitality, you think, a big meal, or you've been to someone's house before when they've had like a large table and 10 people around it, and you're thinking, there's no way I could do that, for multiple reasons. And so I think most people, a lot of people, maybe I've got this wrong, but it just seems that it's not really seen as a command, but because it's seen as something like that instead of actually the principle of loving other people.
And like it's there in the Old Testament, like in Leviticus, it talks about when a stranger sojourns with you in the land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you. You shall love him as yourself. And then it comes up again in Deuteronomy, talking about like loving your brothers. If there's a brother in need, then don't close your hand to him, open your hand to him and be generous. But then we also see it time and again in the New Testament. So there's like Romans 12, it says, contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. Hebrews 13, let brotherly love continue. Don't neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware. And then 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8 and 9, it says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling.
And it's a challenge, isn't it? Because obviously showing hospitality is a command. It's also hard work, and we'll come to that maybe more but also trying to think about how to love one another earnestly without grumbling is a real challenge. And obviously it's something that we could talk about at length, but it should be something that's a joyful event. It shouldn't it, that we get to do this as a church community, that we've got people that we can invite and spend time with and love.
Yeah. Like, I think that, is a challenge, because it's not only something that we need to be doing as a command, but like we need to be doing it with the right attitude. And I suppose that's true of all the commands of the Bible, that it's not just about the things that we do, it's doing it with the attitude of joyfulness and love and not grumbling. And it's easy to, I don't know, to fall into the trap of, or maybe just routine of like, okay, I need to do hospitality, and oh dear, it's going to be a bit of a pain. I'm going to have to
go to Lidl and get your shopping.
Could spend Saturday cooking.
Other supermarkets exist, Waitrose. Yeah.
But it's just, it can be, it's not always gratifying. It can be costly in various ways, but doing it with the right attitude is helpful. And it, like, I think ultimately is a joy. Like,
I mean, do you think about all the different people that you meet when you're either being invited round to someone's house for whether it's like tea and toast or cakes or, anything, any meal. Basically, we're all open to any invites. But it's actually just such a blessing because you get to meet new people. You get to learn about the world. You get to learn about the church in different countries. You hear people's testimonies. You just learn so much from spending time with other people, which is just fantastic. So it's like the Lord's given us this command not to be a burden or for grumbling, but also, like you say, it's a blessing and a joy. It's what we're made for, isn't it? We're made in God's image. We're made to be together.
And like people, I don't know, people open up in a different way when you have them into your home, and like that's where you often really get to know people. And being at church on Sunday is wonderful, and you can have these conversations with people. But like,
I mean, getting locked in a room with someone, nothing quite like that. For getting to know how people deal with being under pressure. Or
you've got quite a few stories of
probably
less than ideal things, but you can ask Katie about that another time. But I think another reason, we kind of hinted at it there, that as to why we do it, is that it's not just a command of God, but it mirrors God's character. And God has loved us with that verse that we love because he first loved us. And the whole way through the Bible, like in the Old Testament, you see that pattern of God loving his people. And again, as we're recording this, the Sunday just past, Paul was preaching on Nehemiah chapter 9 and 10. And you saw there just like the amazing like love and grace that's in God's character, despite us being so unlovable in our sin. And
it reflects the character of God because it is a costly thing to do and is hard work, and it takes up energy and it can take time. But all of those things are just like not even a fraction, are they, of what God has done for us. And so when people are shown hospitality from whoever it is, it's just such an amazing way of expressing and showing the love of God, isn't it?
Definitely.
So you think about people that you've had in your home, and people who are not Christians can often be very confused. A friend of ours has recently been sharing about chat with his new colleague, and he was just sort of really confused about why this guy was having people around on a Friday and then people around on like the following night, and he's thinking, oh, is this a hotel? But actually it is countercultural, isn't it? Because Christians should be countercultural, and it is because it's going the way of the Lord and the way that God wants us to be, which is distinct to the world.
And like that's what you see in the Gospels when Jesus is as God on earth, and he is constantly, he's going to outsiders and he's eating with tax collectors and sinners, much to the shock and hatred of the sort of religious people of the day. They can't believe it, but that's what Jesus does. He comes and he eats and drinks with people, and he has people, he goes to people's houses for meals, and not always the people you would expect. And
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a lot of it's about the time, like taking time to be with people, to invest in people and get to know people. That is just such a great way of showing love, isn't it? You don't have to be eating anything particular or anything really at all, but just, yeah, being able to let love in whatever way that will look for you, which will point to Christ.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's, yeah, again, sort of, it reflects what is true of us as the body of Christ as well, that he has made us into this, well, a body, a community, a family, and that's something which we joyfully get to be a part of. So we're not doing hospitality so that we might, form this community, but it strengthens what's already there and enriches it, and it helps us to experience the love of being part of that community. And
Yeah.
again, that's something you see, there's that amazing bit at the beginning of Acts chapter 2, when everyone is being generous and sharing things and having things in common, and there's no need among any of them. And you just sort of, when you read that, you just like, that's amazing. And,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
Yeah. And also it's a protection for people who, might be in our culture really isolated, whether you're a widower or single, or, in a marriage which is difficult to an unbeliever. Actually, God's put us in the church community as a way of helping us, establishing us in our faith, building us up, and actually, like, if we're obeying this command, a lot of the problems and issues we might have because of just the way the world is, whether you're a Christian or not, really, that actually God's provided this as a way of us loving and caring for each other and helping each other keep going. And I love, I can't remember where it is, but God talks about the fact that he puts he puts us in families. Do you mean, whether you've got your own biological family or not, that like God has put us in the church family to like love one another and help each other. And
and the church family and the community that there is at church is different from any other community that you find. There are lots of different social groups that we can be part of, and that's great, but generally they're quite narrow, cross sections of society. So like if it's a sports team, it might be all one particular age group, or it's all men or all women, or it's if it's a whatever it is, a choir, there might be a particular demographic. But one of the amazing things that church is that there really is people of all ages and lots of different nationalities, and
you don't have to have any ability to be part of it.
Yeah.
No skill is required, which is great.
Just as well for us.
Yeah, but it's true, because obviously things like sports clubs or whatever, music things, there might come a time and a place where actually you can't be part of it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But the church is totally the opposite. It's like almost when you become more needy and less able, that's where the church should be stepping up and actually providing more love and more help.
Yeah.
And fitting the needs as they come up.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that it's true for us as a group of Christians, as the church family, but I think hospitality and that love has a really useful evangelistic function as well.
Yeah.
And seeing that we are commissioned to make disciples and to reach out to the lost and to love strangers, doing this, like doing hospitality, is an amazing way of doing it, and putting on display and welcoming people into that community and all the things that we love about church and all the things we love about being in other people's homes and having other people in our homes and sharing food together and whatever else it might involve. Like if we love it, then other people are going to love it, and perhaps even more so because we might be somewhat used to it, and this is something they haven't experienced before.
I think you can forget. It's a bit like, Paul talks about, we forget how great church is, and how we get to be part of that. But I think with hospitality, you can forget how nice it is to be just part of it. I mean, in the best will of the world, like quite a random group of people, but who love one another, care about each other. And I think that often, I want to get to know people who are my neighbours or people that I've met on the bus or whatever, and you might want to invite them round for like a meal or a coffee or something. but actually it could be a little bit intimidating if you're on your own, and actually, or it might feel a bit weird to invite them when it's just you. So actually having church family that you can bring in and be your kind of support and like help with the chat, like, make it feel more relaxed is such a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm sure lots of people do. And it's a really great way. It's like a blessing for whoever you're meeting who's not a Christian, but also it's really supporting you as well as you wanted to obey God in showing hospitality to them. So.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it is, well, I certainly find it sort of a little bit scary, like doing that thing of mixing your worlds. It's easy to have those, I've got the like church people in my life, and then I've got people from different areas of life, and you just try and keep them separate. But actually, it is important that we are mixing those worlds, and I think it feels more scary than it really is. And I've been at yours and met some of your neighbors before, and there's other people at church that I've met their non-Christian friends, and as you say, like it's always fine. You
definitely
can build it up in your head as if it's going to be really scary, but
I know, and I think that's almost like why we need to be practicing it. And it's a bit like a muscle, isn't it? I've heard, if you just use your muscles more often, they get stronger. So I think it's like that with showing hospitality. The more you do it, the less weird or intimidating it is. And, we like to talk about keeping the bar low. Start with a coffee, start with do you want to come around for a bacon roll and, a cup of tea on a Saturday morning. It's got, it doesn't need to be anything fancy at all. And like it's just such a lovely way of bringing people into your life and being able to share your life without it just being some sort of mystery or something weird. It's not weird at all.
Yeah. And I think it's if we're in the habit of doing it, and if we're in the habit of doing it, even with Christians, and it's just a normal thing for us to do, and it then becomes easier, I think, to invite other people into that, because it's we're just used to doing it, as you say, like we're using that muscle, and it doesn't feel like a big thing that we need to build up in our minds. It's just
I mean, there's nothing better than going to someone's house when they haven't tidied. I mean, I love that. I love going to someone's house and there's just, okay, there does come a point where you're like, oh no, okay, there are limits. I get that. Okay. But actually it just feels, when it sort of feels like, oh, this is just like home.
Yeah, you're
this
just
is
part
normal.
Of the family. Yeah.
They've not put away certain things in, the bathroom or the kitchen, and that's great. Obviously there are limits, but I think you want to kind of get to that stage where, yes, it's clean. We'll get that, but it's actually not. It's not performance. It's not like you're wanting to put your house on show or put your food on show. It's not about that. It's
definitely. So those are like some good reasons that, well, hopefully we think they're good reasons that why we should be doing this. But maybe it's just helpful thinking about some of the things which often might put us off. So is there anything you can think that might have put you off in the past, or might put people off?
But people off coming
to your house. The uncleanness, the food.
We don't have enough time in this podcast. So I think things like low confidence in like, what do I cook? Not everyone is very skilled at cooking, and that's like totally fine. And I think a lot of people might just be thinking, I wouldn't know what to cook. And also things like food, food prices have gone up. So it's kind of thinking, things are a bit tight. Actually, what I'll do is, instead of maybe changing what we buy as food, we'll just not show hospitality, because actually it just costs too much and we can't do it. I guess things like, your house being too small, worrying about where people might sit. How do you, if you're on your own, like, how do you kind of like talk to your, like, the people that you've invited around, your guests, but then also like prepare any food, if the kitchen's not in the part of the like living space. So
I guess there are things which can put us off, and like they're not nothing. It's not like it's not a reasonable thing to think about, but like, I think we can just make excuses sometimes. And like, at the end of the day, like we all eat, and like whether you're living on your own or your family, like you have something to eat for your dinner, so you can just make more of that. Whether it's Michelin star dining or if it's beans on toast, like it's we can all just do a little bit more. And
Yeah.
again, I think just seeing the bar to entry as low is helpful. Like it could be expensive if you're, going over the top with lots of food, but you could just, make something fairly simple.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you need to do it every night of the week, but just, even once a month to start with, just thinking, okay, can I have some people over and use that as a starting point?
Oh, totally. I mean, the principle is just really about being invited into someone's space and being like offered, like you want to welcome people in. I got invited to my neighbours about 2 weeks ago. We had chips and cheese and gravy, and it was fine. It was nice. It was nice. But actually, like, it was really just them inviting me into their home, which was such a nice thing for them to do. And like, we definitely bonded over chips and cheese. So actually, the food wasn't like the thing.
And I think that, again, that's why it's helpful seeing that it's ultimately about love, and it's, we can all do that. We can all, open our homes however. You might have a small home. I don't have a big flat, but you don't need to be throwing a banquet for, dozens of people. You can just have a few people around for dinner and
get takeaway. You don't even have to cook. Get a frozen pizza. It doesn't need to be anything fancy at all. It's really like, that's not why people enjoy spending time with other people generally. It's not, if it is, maybe not such a great thing. But I guess other things that maybe come to mind would be people might be just thinking, I'm too old for it, or and at some people they might feel like, and that's a genuine reason, but I guess other people might feel like, oh, actually I've tried to show hospitality in the past, but maybe I've not been invited back by people, or nobody seems to invite me. And I guess when that happens, and that can happen, and that can be quite painful, but just don't let that put you off. And there's actually always going to be people in the church who and neighbours and people that who will really be blessed through showing hospitality. So it's just trying to like maybe forgive and forget that and like move on, and just like tomorrow's a new day, and just and
trusting as well that like God will bless us for our efforts, and it is more blessed to give. And there's that, it's wonderful that actually, as we are seeking to bless other people, that we are blessed by it as well, and everyone ends up gaining from it, whether we're invited back or not. We're not giving to get. And
definitely
I think sometimes as well, just like if you've had a bad experience, it can sort of be like, oh, I don't want to go there again. I've tried that and it didn't work. But we could probably all tell stories of difficult instances of having people over, or things haven't gone to plan, or you've burnt the food, or the conversation was tricky. But these things happen, but it's not like that every time.
And they can be quite good stories for a Monday, can't they?
No, I think we're not trying to say that these things aren't factors to consider, but there are always, I think, better reasons to do it than things which put us off. Okay, so perhaps it'd be helpful just to think about how we actually go about it. What does it look like? And perhaps first thinking about maybe the mindset which we should have, and what attitude we should have when doing it. And I'll maybe put in some of the books in the description that I'd read before. But there are a few points that I've just stolen from Carolyn Lacey's got a book called Extraordinary Hospitality for Ordinary People. And it's really helpful because she talks about, I think there are 7 chapters, and she basically goes through 7 aspects of the character of God, which we can mirror in our hospitality. So that we should be generous, compassionate, humble, persistent, aware, inclusive, and sacrificial. And I think that's helpful, again, just thinking about the fact that we're doing this as a reflection of God and his character.
Definitely. I think it's important, like we've kind of talked about this already, but just in terms of generosity, is like giving what, from what God has given us. So I think we've spoken about this, like we start it from different places. We've got different resources, different time, energy, money. But it's about the principle of like using what God has given you to serve other people and love other people and to be a witness, rather than focusing on, can I do what so and so does, or I can't do what this other person does.
Yeah.
Actually just thinking about like, what has the Lord given you, and how can you use that to like give to other people?
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think the sort of idea of being compassionate, and just, again, it comes back to loving people, and loving people who are, maybe not always the easiest to love, but actually, remembering that we're not easy to love, and it's not about that really. It's
and it's so countercultural. I mean, I think, I don't know where it was, but someone I'd met, I think we'd all been at someone's house, and I think that it was, I can't remember whether it's someone who's from the church or not, but they were just quite struck at how it was such a mixed group. And actually there was quite a few tricky people within the group. But that in itself was a witness, because in the world, unless you're kind of like the same, or there's kind of, you've got those, similarities, you're not likely to be included into a group, are you? I mean, I think that's fair to say, but that's why the church, loving one another with all of our differences, is just so like incredible. And
definitely, yeah. And the third one there, being humble about it, and we've kind of touched on this already, but the aim is not to impress. It's not that we're like welcoming people to our show home, and here's here's our, it's not like we're throwing a dinner party or entertaining in that sense of like, come down with me, come and rate my food, and come and rate the entertainment. But actually the aim is for us to bless and to love the people that they're welcoming in. And so we shouldn't be too, caught up in what are people going to think about me and my home, and
totally,
these sorts of things.
And I like the idea of thinking about, how can we make people feel comfortable in like your home? So whether that means letting them keep their shoes on, or asking them politely to take their shoes off. If you think someone might feel uncomfortable taking their shoes off in your house, maybe don't insist they do. Or if people eat with spoons instead of forks and knives, let them eat with a spoon. You know what I mean? It's not like a big deal, and it's trying to think about, okay, how will I make this person feel like they can and do belong in my home, which is and
it's just simple small things, isn't it? Like you said, it's just trying to make people feel at home. And you said it before as well, but like, people often feel more at home when it's not an immaculate show home, and you feel like, sitting on the couch, you're going to mess up the cushion arrangement.
Like Hyacinth bouquet.
I think another thing, being persistent and like thinking long term, and often, again, if we're thinking about loving people and building up relationships, and that takes time, and perhaps particularly with people who are not Christians, when we're thinking about that, if we're inviting neighbours round, we shouldn't necessarily expect that they come around for dinner once and then they're going to come to the life course, they're going to come to church every week, and they might, and that would be great, but
don't be surprised if they don't.
And just again, it's we're not we're seeking to bless them and to love them, and whatever the outcome in one sense, it's, yes, we would love it if they came to church and came to faith and all the rest of it, but we're not necessarily just doing it for that. It's loving people.
I mean, that's why it would be good for people to like ask maybe some of the older members of our church family, how have they been seeking to like show hospitality to their friends who aren't Christians, or their neighbours, because I know of many different people who have been persistent in loving their neighbours for years and years, and maybe nothing has come of it, but like the fact that they've been faithful to God and loving their neighbours is such an amazing witness in itself, even if the neighbours haven't yet come to faith.
And it might be that down the line they come on hard times, or they hit a crisis, and they actually think, oh, who could I go to in this moment? And if there's been years or decades even of you loving them and making clear that your home is somewhere they're welcome, then they might well turn to you in that moment of need, and that's what we want. And that's it's like
friendship, really, isn't it? It's like that kind of investing for like long term. It's not just a kind of flash in the pan.
Because relationships take time and will deepen with time. I think also just being aware and recognizing that people are different, and there's not going to be a one size fits all. you're not just going to do the same thing every single time
Yeah.
with different groups of people and expect they'll be the same. And for some people, what will make them feel comfortable and welcome is different from other people. And just recognizing that and trying to, I guess, read the room and read people's body language. And you can often tell if people feel a bit uncomfortable or not at ease in a situation. And
I guess it's things like, even just like when you're inviting people around, asking if they have things like allergies or if are they allergic to cats and dogs, stuff like that you might not be at all, but actually just thinking, actually a lot of people might be terrified of cats or dogs, and actually that would put them off coming. But if you were just able to put the dog, I don't know, in the garden, somewhere, a shed or something, it might help.
I had a really bad experience once where it was like students around for lunch, and it wasn't until I literally put the plate down in front of them that they said, "Oh no, I can't eat that." And to be fair to me, I had said in the car what we were having for lunch and it didn't get mentioned, but it wasn't until everyone else was ready to eat that it was like, "Oh, I can't have that." So we had a bit of a scramble, and I think they had some Weetabix in my crisps.
Weetabix? Oh no.
But yes, after that experience, I think I've always tried to ask in advance, have you got any allergies? Is there anything you can, or even like can't or won't eat? We don't. Some people just really, you don't want them to feel uncomfortable and like they have to force it down. But, next one, just thinking about again being inclusive. It's something we talked about already, but trying to mix worlds and invite people in, and not having just an exclusive little club and an inner circle of people. And we all have friends and we all have people that we're closer to, and that's fine and good and right, but it shouldn't become an exclusive inner circle of people that we're always having the same people and never having anyone else, or never making anyone else feel welcome in that sort of circle. And that's just a danger to watch out for.
Definitely.
And then finally, just again, being sacrificial, and recognizing that it's not always gratifying for us, perhaps in the short term, and it can be hard work, and it can be hard work in cooking or in keeping the conversation afloat, or in lots of ways. It's difficult and it's not easy and it requires effort, but it's still something we should be doing nonetheless. And ultimately, I think it's a blessing and a joy, even when it is difficult.
And I think all of these things, as we are seeking to obey the Lord and to like love the Lord and obey Him and His commands, it is changing us. So even if maybe your guests don't appreciate your beans on toast, the fact is that you're like seeking to live a life of obedience because you love Christ. That is, the Lord's at work in you as you follow and obey Him. So trusting that the Lord's commands, of course, it's hopefully blessing the people that you're showing hospitality to, but it's also having a great work in your life and your heart. And, when you're maybe stacking the dishwasher or washing the dishes after people have been round or whatever, the fact that, it's being thankful that you've got this wonderful opportunity, you belong to Christ. And that's why you've had this opportunity to invite people from church and your neighbours round. And that is just an incredible blessing, and to be thankful for,
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll maybe think about some of the practical things of just, how we might think about doing hospitality, or practical tips maybe for people who haven't done it before or haven't done it for a while. But Katie, you interviewed some of our church members and just asked a little bit about what they do and how it looks for them and how they found it. So we'll hear that now.
Welcome, Jamie. Thanks for coming and being willing to chat about hospitality. For people who haven't met you or don't know you, could you maybe just give us a little brief bio of who you are and your background?
Sure. I'm Jamie. I am a member at Queen's Park at the Tron. Married to Hannah, dad to Elle and Lois, who are 3 and 1. and I work as a lawyer when I'm not doing those things.
Good, excellent. And you're like a busy dad, and I know that you're busy you do a lot of different things in church as well, don't you? Do you lead a growth group, if I got that right?
Yeah, so I help with the growth group and Sunday school at Queen's Park as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I see your beautiful girls running around church on a Sunday night, which is always lovely. Jamie, we're thinking about hospitality, and I was wondering, you grew up in a Christian home. I was wondering, like, how much does that impact you now as showing hospitality?
Yeah, Hannah and I both grew up in homes that were open, and there were people from church in and out all the time. So yeah, hospitality is the fancy word for what was just normal life for both of us growing up. In fact, I remember growing up, we used to on a Sunday morning always ask Mum and Dad, who's coming for lunch today? And it was once in a blue moon they would say, oh, we haven't got anyone today, we've got just going to have a quiet afternoon. And those were the worst Sundays growing up, was
that's so
wanted
sweet.
people coming around. So.
That's really lovely. And can you maybe share a little bit, like, what would that look like growing up? What did your mum and dad do?
Probably look different at different times. I remember a lot of soup and bacon rolls on a Sunday. It would always be like an eclectic bunch of people from church, so maybe some students and some older people or other families with kids, and just food and chat was the basis of it, really.
Brilliant. And so for you and Hannah, how do you do hospitality now as a young married couple with kids?
Yeah, I think much the same. So whether it's a Sunday or other times during the week, Hannah's at home with the girls full time, so they often have people around during the day, midweek. It's just people come in and get involved in whatever we're up to and eat whatever we would have been eating. So it doesn't always look the same in terms of what we cook or who we have, but it's just try and make it a pattern that we're regularly doing that.
That's brilliant. And how do you think your hospitality has changed with like the arrival of the girls? Or has it?
Yeah, I think in one sense it's changed just in that the dynamic in our house is different. It's noisier and messier than it was before they were born. In fact, we have a sign by the front door in our house, which was a gift from Agnes as a knowing gift that said, is our house clean? No. But are we making memories that will last a lifetime? Also no. So I think that probably sets the tone
That's
as
good.
people arrive.
The bar is low. That's
exactly.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad your house isn't clean either. So, maybe could you share like some of the things that you've learned through hospitality, and how has it been a blessing to you and Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing just in terms of we value relationships with people in church family. So whether that's people in growth groups or other families with kids at similar age to ours, I think you get to know each other much better just by, there's no real replacement for quantity of time together, and having people around often and seeing them not just on a Sunday for a 10-minute chat over coffee after church, but you can actually build those relationships, which leads to discipleship and encouragement and all the other things that we want from our church family, really.
Yeah. And there's a really practical thing. What are some of the things that you or Hannah might cook for lunch? Or dinner?
Yeah,
or
a variety of things. We love the slow cooker. We love putting stuff on a Sunday morning and then not thinking about it until it's on the table. We do quite a lot of chili or curry or big pots of things like that. Last Sunday when it was really sunny, we had a barbecue, which was a bit of a disaster. But we just
what happened? Food poisoning, or
we had the Brennans coming around, so it was a kind of high stakes situation for fire. And I set the barbecue going, or thought I did. Went into the kitchen to grab something, which I know you're not meant to do, and came back to find the whole barbecue on fire. So the casing and the tray and the grill and everything was alight. So we didn't really have, I say we had a barbecue. We tried to have a barbecue and then cooked everything in the kitchen.
Probably quite a good idea with barbecues, isn't it, to do that? Yeah. And like, have there been any moments where you've just been like, it's been quite funny or like awkward other than setting things on fire?
Other than setting the barbecue on fire. I remember when we were recently married and we were in this little flat near the city centre, and we had a big crowd and we're excited about hosting as a married couple. And we had this low coffee table in the middle of the room, and everyone's drinks were on that before we were eating our lunch. And I went up to go to the kitchen to do something and managed to kick the coffee table and knock over all of the drinks. And Hannah just thought it was funny. She just laughed at me. So I think I got away with it. But
that's really
that
good.
probably set the tone pre-children even for what our hosting looked like.
That's really good. And, a lot of people might think, oh, I can't do, or can't have people over. My house isn't clean. I don't know how to cook. It's a mess. Oh, like, what will we talk about? What would you say to people who might, be tempted to kind of think of it like that?
I think there's always reasons you can come up with not to do it. And it's not that you have to have people in your house all the time, but it's, I think if the bar is low, if you're not having people around for a dinner party, but just to join in with your day and to play with your kids and to chat away about whatever's going on, then I think, there's no gold standard that we feel that we're meeting anyway. And I don't think other people need to feel that way either.
Definitely. And one a thing that's actually often like very helpful is inviting friends who aren't from church round as well. And how you found that, like, has that been kind of an easy thing to do, or is that more difficult to invite folk who, you don't know from church, but maybe from work or other places?
Yeah, I think it looks different sometimes. So I think just as Christians, we have this kind of cultural norm of being in each other's homes in a more relaxed way, where I think some colleagues at work, that whole idea is a bit alien. So if I say to them, oh, we've got folk coming around on Sunday, they think, oh goodness, what are you going to cook? Or so I think that can be a kind of cultural barrier sometimes. But yeah, we've had friends from other contexts around and just treat them in much the same way that we would church people, really. Yeah.
And have you ever kind of like tried to kind of, as they say, like mix your worlds, combine sort of your friends from church and like your colleagues maybe? Has that been effective?
Yeah, we've done that before, and it's nice. Even then, like when you're talking to friends outside of church about people you're seeing or what you're doing, it's nice that they've met them and know who you're talking about. And we've had different combinations of people at different times.
That's great. Oh, look, Jamie, thank you so much for sharing, because actually it's just so encouraging to see and hear that actually, like, whatever your situation is, you can have your door open and have people over, and it is a great blessing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much. Welcome, Ilsa. Thank you so much for coming and being willing to talk about hospitality. For those of us who don't know you, could you maybe just give us like a short intro to who you are? That'd be great.
Okay, I'm a retired primary school teacher. Just celebrated my 75th birthday yesterday.
I can't tell.
And I've been a member in the church for 50 years or so.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay.
Amazing. And where do you live? Do you live nearby?
I live in Rutherglen, which is on the outskirts of Glasgow on the southeast side.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And do you live on your own, or do you share your house with anyone?
I do. I live on my own. I am single. I haven't always lived on my own. I've had people staying with me, especially students from Hungary. I've had over 50 from Hungary. So I've learned a few bits and pieces about entertaining from the Hungarian girls.
Wow, I bet. So have you always done or, showed hospitality? How has that evolved?
No, I haven't. But I do remember one lady in the church who suffered from chronic bronchitis and asthma. And I phoned her up one day. She lived near me in Burnside. And I phoned her up one day to find out how she was. And she said, "Oh, Ailsa, it's lovely to hear from you. Why don't you come round for lunch that day?" Now, I wouldn't have ever asked anyone to come round that day because there wouldn't have been anything in the fridge. But when I got to her house, she had the table set, and she just had the most ordinary things laid out. She had just opened her fridge and said, "Oh, I've got a wee bit of cheese left. I'll put that out. I've got a few tomatoes. I've got some bread." Just the basics. But it was the fellowship with her that was wonderful. Quite wonderful.
That's right.
So she was a real example to me. I've never forgotten Margaret.
Yeah. And do you find hospitality easy? How do you like to do it yourself, Ilsa? Are you similar?
I really hate it. I really do.
You hate cooking?
I hate cooking.
Okay.
So I really do find it very difficult. Also, my house is very small. I don't have a dining room, and that's always been a big bugbear to me, that I would be inviting people to sit and eat in the same room.
Yeah. But it's not stopped you, has it, Ilsa? Because I've been to your home a number of times myself, and I'm not alone. So,
well,
yeah.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't stopped me. But I think it's the verse in the Bible where Jesus says, "If you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me." Also, when I was young, when I was 19, I was in Sweden. I was working there, but at the weekends I was totally on my own and quite homesick. And I often think of students coming to Glasgow, not just students, also families who also may be feeling a bit homesick. And I do want to, get to know them, entertain them, make them feel loved.
Yeah.
If possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And Edward's been talking about that in John, hasn't he? Like how we need to love one another as Christ loved us. And I think, opening your home to people is such a great way, isn't it, of like showing love to people. And one time of many, you had invited myself and some other Iranian people over, and not only had you cooked for us, but you'd also prepared like puzzles for us to do together, which was really fun, which was just amazing. I don't know how successful we were at doing the puzzles, but it was good fun trying. Ilsa, I'm just wondering, has your approach to hospitality changed over the years? Like, has it, evolved as you've done it? You've learned new things or different things about how to do it?
I've learned that I really have to pray about it, and it's been just amazing. When I pray, I find I still get very nervous about entertaining. But I would say to anyone else who also maybe suffers the same sort of nervousness as me, or feels that they just can't cook, go for it.
Yeah.
Pray about it. It doesn't need to be, the food doesn't need to be anything super fancy. People will eat it. No one is going to say, "Excuse me, but I was expecting something cordon bleu."
Yeah.
No one's going to say that. People are appreciative.
Yeah.
And you do get to know folks in the church in that
definitely.
way. And, and that's been lovely.
Oh, absolutely. And how do you feel like you've been blessed through showing hospitality yourself? What do you feel like you've learned?
Well, I've experienced, as I say, when I pray, I just feel God gives me real assurance that everything's going to be all right.
Lovely.
Just peace.
Yeah.
And that's been wonderful. That's
brilliant.
Been really wonderful.
And Ilsa, you might hate it, but you do cook. People don't go away hungry. And then you're also kind of helping the chat. And, how do you sort of do that? Like, because I think you do that well. How have you learned to do that just through practice, or has it come naturally to you?
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
The first 5 people I invited ever for dinner didn't talk to each other.
Don't mention
no, I don't know how, if any of them are still alive, but every time I had to leave the room with the the plates, etc. No one offered to help. Not that I was expecting that, but no one offered to help. And when I came back into the room, they were just sitting in total silence, and it was the worst experience. But it didn't put me off. It didn't put me off, because not everyone's like that. I learned a lot from others in the church.
Yeah. And also, some people, you can understand they're thinking, I'm single, I live on my own, I'm not a good cook, or I don't like cooking, similar to you. What would you say to them?
I would say, if you really don't want to cook, invite someone out to a restaurant for a meal. If you really feel you can't cope with it. I remember meeting a girl who had just arrived the day before in Glasgow. She'd come to study, and she was sitting beside me, and she was young and I was old, and I thought, this girl knows no one in Glasgow, and I've got nothing in the fridge at home, so I can't invite her back. So I said, would you like to go out for dinner? And we went out together. And I don't think I saw her again. She was in the church. She came frequently, but I think I only saw her a couple of times. And it was across a crowded room.
Yeah. But that would have been such an encouragement.
I would say go for that.
Yeah.
And try something simple.
Yeah.
Even if it's just buying, what's that thing they eat nowadays? Pizza? Or something
frozen
like that.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just heat it up.
Because it's not about the food, is it? It's about,
it's showing God's love.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ilse, for sharing. It's really helpful.
But it's really encouraging to hear just how people are doing it and how people do it at different stages and different situations in life. And Katie, have you got any other maybe just little final practical tips, things that you've picked up or things that you've seen other people do, which is helpful? Or...
Yeah, I mean, I really like having a mix of ages and stages as much as possible. I love having anybody who's older than me, which makes me feel young. So anyone 60 plus, I'm actually not 60, but
59,
older members of the church family, they are just so often like the complete gems around the dinner table. No offense to anyone else, but they're the ones who have like often been following the Lord for the longest. They've got wisdom, they've often are very good at taking an interest in the young people. I think often in church, older people might feel a bit intimidated by the younger folk. So actually when you're sitting in an environment where you're around the table and it's much more relaxed, we're all eating together, it's just such a nice way for people to get to know one another. And definitely. It's just often so fun because a lot of the older ladies and some of the older men in church have got great stories, and they're
sometimes
often
even a little song that they might sing.
You get a song here and there. And I think it's such a great witness actually for younger people to see older Christians and how like God's been kind to them, and how the Lord's kept them going into their 60s, 70s, and that's just such a blessing to be mixing with different ages, and it's following the pattern of learning from each other, and
definitely
that has been great.
And I think as well, like, it can help if you have like a mix of Christians and non-Christians at in your home, then often it's easy to, actually often you don't even need to think about it, and it does just come up that people start, sharing little bits of the gospel here and there, or sharing their story or sharing their testimony. But it can often feel, if it's your neighbours that are around, it can, I don't know, feel odd to just suddenly launch into, oh, here's my testimony. But if you ask one of your other guests or an older saint who you've got around, just little questions about how they've seen the Lord at work.
Definitely. And I think often your friends who are from church who've come, they can often ask maybe more tricky questions to your friends or who aren't Christians, or your neighbours, that actually you might feel like, oh, I've not got to that stage yet. But when there's maybe there's nothing to lose in a way if you're friends who don't know them. And they can maybe ask harder questions or so that can actually really take the pressure off. So you're not having to do all the work yourself in terms of like sharing your faith, because everyone's kind of hopefully modeling it and sharing it in as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's really helpful. So it's always helpful to think about who you're going to invite, and thinking about, like, thinking as well, like, are the people who are going to be helpful for making conversation, and just having a good mix of people.
Definitely.
And thinking about, I think another thing that's just helpful to think about is, are there people who maybe would particularly benefit from it at this time, whenever they might be going through something, or maybe they might not have an invitation elsewhere. And to those people who have invited for lunch this week, it's not because I think you don't have an invitation elsewhere. But anyway, it's just a point to think about. Think hard about who's coming and how that'll work as a dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. I think the food, whether you're going to have a tea and a cake or whatever, or a bacon roll, I think the food, it's nice if you can have like tasty food. Obviously, God's given us the gift of food, to enjoy. Food tastes great. It can taste awful. But, actually just trying, you can learn. Again, this is like someone who, I'm not a cook, but actually I've just learned a little bit over the time. It's just taken a lot of time, and actually learn a lot from just asking each other, what did you cook? Or, I've already copied a recipe from last weekend this week already because it was so nice and it was simple. And actually, it's, I guess the aim is to, like, obviously, like we came back to the beginning, make people feel loved, but also, making an effort is a way of loving people in making nice food. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, there's a really great verse in Proverbs. Proverbs 15:17 says, "Better is a dinner of herbs where love is, than a fattened ox and hatred with it." Which I think is helpful, because it's coming back to the point that it's ultimately about love, and it's not just about the food. If all you can afford and manage is a dinner of herbs, a simple dinner, that's fine. But as you say, I think making an effort, and if you can have a fattened ox and love, then that'd be good too.
Yeah. And I think people talk about, it's not entertaining.
Yeah.
It is not, like you say, trying to impress and like have everyone go, oh, wow, look at that. Whenever you bring out your vegetable curry out the, slow cooker or whatever it is. But actually, it'd be really great if you could have both. But it's actually more about being able to like think about the other people and encourage them. And if you could just make something that you can make without it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Being breaking the bank or whatever.
Yeah. Well, another thing I think I've kind of found helpful is like letting people help. And like, people often don't want to just feel like they're, being served. I mean, sometimes they do, some people do, but like, people want to pitch in and they want to help you, and it can sometimes feel, I mean, you read the room and the situation, but like, if people offer to help with the dishes, then let them, and then it means you don't have to do them when you get back in on Sunday night. That's great. Or on Monday morning. But I find people often ask, "Oh, can I bring anything?" And then I'll say, "Oh, no need to bring anything." And then they all show up and bring a box of chocolates and a bottle of juice, and you end up with like half a dozen boxes of chocolates. So sometimes I just say, "Okay, well, if you bring this," and then it means you don't end up with lots of the same things.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's quite fun if you get to sort of, help chop veg, or you make the salad, or and you can learn from people coming over who are actually much better cooks than you are, and like making things. I've had that before, and it's been really nice.
And again, it helps people just feel part of the family. And
it's more relaxed that way, rather than a kind of big reveal when dinner's ready.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing is learning from others, but not comparing yourself to others. So we've all, as we said, got different resources, different gifts, and if we're going to other people's and seeing things done well, then we can pick tips up, pick principles up. But also just acknowledging that we're not all the same, and we have all got different resources and gifts. So we shouldn't be put off or discouraged because I can do what they did, or I can manage that, or things like that. So I think just
definitely, and it doesn't have to be like big groups all the time. Like invite one person round for a cup of tea, or just if you feel like actually I couldn't possibly make a meal, well, you don't have to. Just, it's much more about kind of offering your time and you're listening. You're having time with someone can be so valuable.
Yeah, or even like if you're, I don't know, I guess another thing, there will be some people, maybe if you're a student and you're in a shared flat with people and having people around is difficult, like you could offer to, I don't know, a family at church, like, can I cook a meal and bring it round to yours?
Yeah.
And like it's doing it in a slightly different way, I guess, but
Yeah,
it's,
definitely.
there's sort of ways around it, and there are things that you can do, or even just going out for a coffee with someone is an
Yes.
example of just,
Yeah.
again, putting that principle of loving people
Yeah.
into practice.
Definitely.
Another thing, Ilsa mentioned it when you were speaking to Ilsa, but just like praying about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, really praying and asking for God's help.
Praying for conversations and for people to feel like you want them to feel loved and cared for, and
Yeah.
definitely.
And yeah, I think like even just people are often really struck, like when you pray and give thanks for the food and the things you pray about, like people who are not used to that.
Yeah.
They often, maybe they just think it's quaint and cute, but like they think, it's interesting that we do that and that we acknowledge.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, just not being ashamed about that, because it can sometimes feel a bit odd if there are non-Christians there. But
definitely. And I think also just the way that you interact with the people you've invited. So if someone's not like a great storyteller or like the most gregarious, then it doesn't matter. People should, and you hope, will take an interest and ask questions and, show love that way, because actually, it's probably quite easy for people to feel like, oh, I need to be like so entertaining or so chatty. And actually, God's made us all different.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for people not to feel like, oh, I have to be the same as so and so to be like someone that's worth being invited, or because I think that can happen within a church, a big church, that whether it's big or small, that people feel like, oh, I'm not like that, or I should be more like that, and actually just trying to like help people feel like, oh, actually it's okay. God's made us all different. We're not cookie cutouts, and actually, you're very welcome, whether you chat a lot or don't.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think hopefully that's been helpful and just has encouraged people. And I think, well, certainly in my time at church, I've just been so blessed by people doing this, and I'm so thankful for those who do it and who love me well, and have loved me well and continue to do so. I think hopefully those are some encouraging things. And I'll maybe just mention some of the things, if you want to maybe read or watch or listen to some other things, some helpful things. I'll put links to them in the description as well if you want to follow them. But one book I read was The Gospel Comes with a House Key, and maybe just to caveat it, it's very American. She's in a particular context, and she talks about like having about 50 people around for beans in her house every week, and it's like you might think, oh, I couldn't possibly do that, but again, like the principles, I think it's helpful. Francis Schaeffer's got a short little book called The Mark of a Christian, where he's talking about that verse in John where it says, all people will know that you're my disciples for you love one another, and he talks about this love for one another being the mark of a Christian. So that was really helpful. Tim Chester's got a book called A Meal with Jesus, where he's going through Luke's gospel and picking out different meals that Jesus has with people and some of the principles which come from that. I mentioned already Carolyn Lacey's got a book, Extraordinary Hospitality for Ordinary People. And then there are a few resources on Canon Press. There's some podcasts and things. There's one called Come Over for Dinner, which I haven't listened to loads of, but basically every guest that they have on shares a recipe and talks about, their experience of hospitality. So if you're looking for recipes, and that could be quite a helpful place to go. I think they have a website as well where the recipes are written down. So if you like recipe and you struggle for ideas, then maybe that's a good place to go. So there are lots of resources out there, but ultimately I think just the best way to learn is just to do it and put it into practice. So thank you very much for listening, and we hope that it's been helpful.